my goodness. I'm Marion, I'm alcoholic. Thank you so much for your introduction, Raquel, and thank you so much for everyone who's put this together. It is my honor and privilege, and I am humbled to be with these fine gentlemen this weekend and be able to share my experience, strength, and hope, my prayers, my promises, all that. Usually what happens when I start is it all kind of comes up so bear with me. I say this always, but I can never believe that this is my life, this life that God has given me, this opportunity to be able to just be alive and be a part of this sacred fellowship. And I'm undone. I'm undone by the people I see in the room today, people that have been with me on this journey that, I was telling Chris a little earlier that there's those of you that know my husband Peter and have been with him in his journey, which I believe is thank you. Thank you for fellowshipping with him, and thank you for being shoulder to shoulder with him. Thank you for carrying him through the highs and lows of Alcoholics Anonymous to get him to me, right? The selfishness of that. And so just as we've walked this journey heart to heart for so long, my sobriety date is November 11th, 1989. I'm going to get in the zone, I'm going to get in there, but the excitement kind of overtakes for a minute. I was a singer in a church, and I've sang in a band, and I would get these butterflies and I'd get nervous, but I also knew it was excitement at the same time. And what I want to show off today and what I want to say today is my prayer and my promise would be that you see him and not me. Because in and of myself, I'm nothing. And as I've prepared for this, which is, it's like whatever I spoke at a home group or whether I spoke at wherever that was, the preparation and the prayer has been happening since then, is for this moment. And that's what we have, is this moment. That's what we have, this moment in time from somewhere I read where this moment will never happen again, not as it is now. Looking at a sponsee that's here, that came up here and built a fellowship here, and the fellowship she craved, seeing old friends when I first got with Peter, and my bestie friends over here, and being with Chris will never be in this moment exactly the same. This cup of coffee, this fellowship, these people, this moment will never be the same. And as I felt tasked to do this morning, just to share in a general way, too, what my journey's been like. November 11th, 1989, out of Bellingham, Washington. I came from a family of 6 kids, 1 adopted, because we didn't have anything. There was hunger, there was some abuse, there was some things happening, there was alcoholism in my family. And as a young child, as a young girl, I can still remember crying out to God. Like, my dad would work away up in Alaska trying to provide for the family, and I'd wear his t-shirts to bed, crying out for my dad. But in that hunger and in that thing, where our big book talks about deep down inside is every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. I would look out my window and I'd have my dad's t-shirt on, and I'd know, you're out there somewhere. And I believe that that's the way the deal is with God, God brings me to AA, and AA brings me to God. And this journey of prayers and promises and through all life's journey, most of those times it's come through the dark places, the lonely places, the excruciating alone places. Where as my husband says a lot, is, where I'm known that I'm known by my Creator, known that I'm known by God. God answering a prayer for me, whether it's stand. And here's the deal, guys. What I've noticed about my relationship with God and what I notice about my relationship with Him is that He'll come in the most unexpected places. In the most unexpected places, when I don't know that it's going to happen, there it happens. There it comes. There He gives me the food that I need for that day, the food I need for that moment, the message I need in that moment. And it's a relationship that's grown. Here's the deal. If in and of myself I'm nothing, the Father doeth the works. The first time I did a 3rd-step prayer, I'm still here. The first time I did a 7-step prayer, I'm still here. The first time I said a serenity prayer, I'm still here. The first time I did a Lord's Prayer, I'm still here. The first time I did a freedom from bondage prayer, I'm still here. We're still here. And if you're new in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, that prayer can be as short as, help me. That prayer can be as short as, I'm afraid. Those times as a little girl of looking out the window and wearing my dad's t-shirt and saying, I'm afraid. The innocence of a child. God says that we come to Him like a child. God, I'm afraid. God, I'm alone. God, I'm broken. God, I can't see the other side of that. He's deep down inside of each and every one of us, and those prayers are answered every single time. Every single time God has answered those prayers as evidence of just standing here and being free from the bondage of a drink. November 11, 1989, I got drunk twice that day. It was my 30th birthday. I'm in a Denny's getting drunk in the morning and passing out in the afternoon and going back out to drink that night. Now, I didn't have any idea on November 10th, that day, that I was going to have permanent sobriety the next. So what happens in that? I don't even know that I prayed that night. I don't even know that I prayed. But God in His infinite wisdom picked that day and picked that time and did something overnight. Our book says, ideas, attitudes, and emotions are suddenly cast aside for something new. What is the cast aside? What is that? Where does that come from? And that's the thing in Alcoholics Anonymous I'll never be able to explain. Why was one day I wretched and hopeless in my matted 80s perm with champagne blonde color, and I'm wearing a leopard print shirt, which I never wore again. It sat in a drawer for 10 years. It's like, how does that come from this place to where I was the next morning, to looking at myself in the mirror in my bright pink bathroom with my matted hair and seeing something in the mirror that I'd never seen before? What happens in that moment? And I think that's what we're talking today about. I think we're talking about prayers, and we're talking about promises. But God has promised me that He'll never leave me, He'll never forsake me. And He hasn't, and He won't. So in that journey, I'm going to breathe and have a drink. You guys can understand that. So I pick up my first drink at 15 years old. I have this family, and I'm a lost soul. I grew up in this place where, I was ashamed to be Marion Weston. I was ashamed. And my brothers and sisters, we were misfits. We were. And so when I picked up that first drink, everything changed. I became the party girl. I ran after that drink, and I ran after it with everything that I had, because it was a panacea for my ills. It calmed. I became this different person. And I meet this man at a party at 19 years old. The first drink, I have to say this, it was a bottle of MD 2020 that I ripped off from a store, and it was in the stall of a high school dance. It was really romantic, that first drink. And I chugged down the first part and I threw up, and then I chugged down again and I was off, And I had this whole new identity. I'm the party girl. I've got the record albums, and I've got the concert tickets, and I've got the green stuff to smoke with it, and all that stuff, And I meet a man who my father was an angry war veteran, and I meet this man, and he is that guy at a party. He's the same angry guy. He's in the middle of a fight, and it was love at first sight. And I know for me, knowing my life today and knowing the things from my past, is I had somebody I could fix, like I did with my dad. I could sing, I could dance, I could make Dad happy. So now I have this man, and I've got a ticket to get out of the house, and I'm pregnant. And we quickly had 3 children, and they were stair steps. They're 15, 16 months apart. We have these kids, and I get pregnant with my 4th child when my daughter's 4 years old. So this is 1986. On October 19th, 1986, I have my 4th child. His name was Brian Daniel. And 3 months and 3 days after he was born, he dies of crib death at my sister's house. We ran into the bedroom, and Brian's dead. And we rush off to the hospital. And, I'm 27 years old. I have 3 children to raise. I'm in the grips of alcoholism. And my life was so dark. Like it could, we talk in the dark places of our life, and we can feel them in that moment, right? So Brian dies, and my life is just so dark. And that same year in August, my mom passes away. And how our book talks about how dark it is before the dawn. I'm 27 years old. I've got these 3 children to raise, and I can't live. All I think is I'm insane. I am crazy. I don't even know how to live. And I tell my husband, I've got to go see a therapist. I am nuts. And so I go to see this therapist, and our book talks about these ominous warnings, And this woman sat across the table from me, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. She looks at me and she says, when you lose a parent, you lose your future, and when you lose a child, you lose your past. And Marion, you're having trouble living in today. I have this family riddled in alcoholism. I have this little brother who's living under a bridge and sticking forms of alcohol in his arm, and another ominous warning from him. These are prayers, these are promises, these are the things that hit our spirit. And my little brother looks at me one day, because what I had is I was building this home no matter what. I had these children to raise. I had the 2 cars in the garage, and I had a swimming pool and a trampoline and all the things that I never had as a little girl. Clean towels, clean socks, things like that. I'm taking care of these children. And my little brother, I just kept pointing the finger at him if I ever was like that. Or my little sister who's taking sedatives and drinking in the morning, if I ever was like that. My brother, my sister who made Bob Marley look like he didn't smoke anything. If I ever was like that, because after all, my life, but inside, guys, it's that deal, is that thing, that restless, irritable, and discontent, this disconnection from God, this sickness that was inside of me. And my little brother gives me another warning, and my little brother says, well, one of these days, Marion, you're going to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror. See, this is what I believe is my God journey. This is what I believe is the prayers that come to me. This is what I believe are the promises that come to me. And when I looked in the mirror that day, I was at that jumping off place our book talks about. I couldn't see my life with a drink, without a drink. I spent 30 days in a treatment center. I go through the first 3 steps. And what happened in that treatment center for me was life, it's like the veil was torn. It's a biblical term, but whatever. And I started seeing life with new glasses. I started seeing life like I had to leave those children and go to this treatment center, and I know that that was the best thing in the world for me in those 30 days. It really was. And I went through these steps, and we would go across the street into this park, and we'd swing on these swings, and I felt like a little kid, that I was alive. You know, the leaves were orange and red and green, and they were beautiful, and I could see them for the first thing. I could see things through new eyes. That first innocent beginning, right? Coming into my first home group. Having C.B. McLaren meet me at the front door and reach out his hand and say, "Hi, Marion, welcome." I thought he was the president of Alcoholics Anonymous in that moment. He had that big old alcoholic red nose and the flat top and suspenders and flannel shirt. See, this is us. In those days of growing up, I was a girl. I was the hippie. I was the kumbaya. I was the Birkenstocks and socks from Bellingham, Washington. I was that girl, and I always wanted to feel a part of. I always wanted to belong. And when I got to that group of, we were open share, we were messy, we would 12-step people by the front door. You know, we would do all that stuff. And we would get together. And it was the coolest thing in the world. Like, you guys were saying the things out loud that were a secret inside me. I'm alone. I'm broken. I'm the only one. And you guys would, you know, you'd get fired from a job and laugh about it. And there'd be everybody would go, "Yes." You know, and I was like, who are these people? You know, you would, I remember one time I had this, I couldn't pay my power bill, and I was freaking out about it. And the next day I go to my regular noon meeting, and the windows rolled down, and somebody had put a money order on the front seat of my car with a scribble on the name. See, these are the life things. These are the things like the innocent climb we talk about, that my husband talks about, or just the little things that happen that were building my faith, that were building my relationship with this God. And they could just be the little things, you know. I was 9 months sober, and I had this old beat up Audi. I spent like $700 on it. I got 3 kids strapped in the back, and I'm going to go in the Pacific Northwest up through the North Cascades Highway. And I remember pulling off to the side of the road because I'm sober. I'm a sober mom. I'm feeding my kids. I'm taking them on a ride. I'm showing up. I'm putting them in bed. That might not be big things to you, but those were big things to me. I wasn't neglecting them. I wasn't that I'm abusing them with my words. I was feeding them. I was washing their clothes. Those are little things to some people, but they were big things to me. And we're going up across the North Cascades Highway in Washington. Go sometime. I'm taking you guys. And I had driven it 1,000,000 times with beer cans in the back of the car, you know. And I'm driving up and through the mountain pass. And I literally had to pull over because I couldn't take another corner. I couldn't take another turn because it was taking my breath away. I knew that word. You know, people say, "Oh, it's breathtaking, it's breathtaking." It took my breath away. Could have had to do with the elevation too, a little bit. But, you know, it's just like walking into this parking lot today. I run into Robert John. We see him when we're pulling in. He was at the beginning of the Peter Marion love story. You know, Jim and Maribel. Jimmy freaking interviewed me to make sure I was okay for him. You know, and yeah, question after question. What is your intention with my friend? You know. But I want to be there. I want to be awakened in the Spirit enough to every moment of my life when you just go, "Ah, God, I see you. I see you." anything that blocks that. I mean, I felt that. Robert John's in the parking lot. I look out the door and I go, wow. You see what I'm saying? When our friend he came to South Florida to see us, says, I heard God through you. I've never been the same. See, this is what we get to do. It's not about a lesson or yes, it's a transformation that happens in our heart, that happens organically, that happens so individual, that yours isn't going to be mine and mine isn't going to be yours, but that's the realm of the Spirit is broad and roomy and all-inclusive and never exclusive, never exclusive. Man, I'm telling you, when I was that hippie chick growing up, in high school, I was failing terribly. But I was like, why are the jocks here? And why are the nerds over here? And why are those people more popular? And why aren't those? See, I came into AA and it was none of that. You know, big shot, little shot, one shot, we're all shot, right? That was made for me. This is where I belong. And in those prayers, and in those thoughts, and in those, have the promises come true? Yes, absolutely. The 9th-step promises, the 5th-step promises, these guys are going to give you all that stuff. You know, I'm here to just kind of, I don't know. I feel, Jimmy said, Marion, you're going to set the table. But really, seriously, be me, right? I had that one time I was in a church. Okay, see, what I would do is that little girl. So I was always compare myself to other people. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And I remember this gentleman telling me one time, Marion, just be yourself. You make a rotten somebody else. But also in that comparison, what am I? If I'm always less, I'm always less, I'm always, you know what? I was led to a prayer. I was led to a prayer by a man named B.R. Bradbury, and it was this beautiful prayer. If you have a daily reflection, go, I'm going to just list the prayers, so take notes. No, because I'm not going to read. No. He's like, Marion, so B.R. got sober with me, and we would go to the treatment center, and he was an old-timer, and he'd always remind me of this prayer on daily reflections, November 11th, and this prayer is so beautiful. But it talks about, I'm a beloved child of God, and my most urgent life task is to love, care, and nurture for myself. You know, and when I'm honoring me, I'm honoring God, and that's always my place to go to, in this place of where the self-talk, and it doesn't mean, oh, yay, I've got such great self-esteem, because believe me, before this, I'm freaking out, and Maribeth knows the truth, you know. but the reality is being able to, if I'm thinking little of myself, or if I'm thinking great of myself, what am I thinking about? Myself. And in this constant walk that we get to do, in this constant place of selfishness and self-centeredness being the root of my troubles, if I'm thinking, you know, I had this friend, Alfred Taylor. He's kind of looks a lot like Robert John. But Alfred Taylor used to say, you know, I might not be much, but I'm all I ever think about, you know. So, where was I? So in this journey called God, in this journey of this relationship, of this friendship, in this relationship of kindness, in this relation, so that's kind to me too. That's what that means by that prayer. Kind to me too. As I pour out and give my life to others. Kindness, hope, mercy. Mercy. Being able to give to another person the exact same mercy that was given to me. See, I've learned in this relationship with God that I cannot outgive him. That whatever I pour out and give to anybody in my life, God returns it tenfold. Have you guys ever noticed that? You get out of yourself, I'm going to take that extra effort, I'm going to put that grocery cart back, I'm going to help I'm going to answer that phone to the blow your hair back sponsee, you know. I really don't want to answer it. Hello. Okay, you guys get it, right? every single time. I cannot, and never will outgive God. And how dare I to take a moment of that for granted anyway? When people were so kind and so gentle and would answer the phone in the middle of the night, would pick up that phone in the middle of the night, would meet me at that meeting for yet another one of Marion's tragic events of how she burnt the chicken, whatever that is. So now I'm going to go to some prayers. And these are just some along my journey that have been faithful things that have walked with me. So as we do this organically, as we build this relationship with God, and here's the deal, in prayers and promises here, right? Whether it's through like a lot of my stuff, I was thinking about this song when I saw prayers and promises. There was a song called Poems, Prayers, and Promises. And it was by a man named John Denver who's gone to heaven. And this song talks about, the chorus goes, I have to say it now. It's been a good life, all in all. It's really fine to have a chance to hang around, to sit her by the fire and watch the evening tire and speak of poems and prayers and promises and things that we believe in. How sweet it is to love someone. How right it is to care. How long it's been since yesterday, and what about tomorrow? And what about our dreams and all the memories we share? So that's the song. I've been thinking about that for weeks as we've been going into this, but okay. So here's some prayers. And some are just, okay. Where's that one I was going to go to? So as a morning prayer, God, please direct my thinking and keep my thoughts divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Please keep my thought life clear from wrong motives and help me employ my mental faculties that my thought life might be placed on a much higher plane, the plane of inspiration. And I love that so much because here's the deal. My life is either going to be, I want to be an inspiration to others when I walk up and I take care of my day. And as I leave my house, as I'm going to be with other people, I want them to see God's light in me. And as I walk around with these prayers and things in my life, these are the things that give me the strength and able to do that, right? So if I want to know about Moses, I got to read about Moses. And if I want to learn about God, I got to read about God. And if I want to learn about baseball, I'm going to read Mickey Mantle, or you know what I mean? Those things. And so as I build and I enjoy this relationship with God, I'm going to come into those prayers that are sacred to me. Okay, going to another one. It's not on this one. And then I'm going to get out of here. And this is one that I carry with me a lot. And I mean, it's just not even a prayer, but it's a promise from Bill. So God had done for him what he could not do for himself. His human will had failed. Doctors had pronounced him incurable. I was incurable, right? Society was about to lock him up. Like myself, he had admitted complete defeat. Then he had in effect been raised from the dead, suddenly taken from the scrap heap to a level of life better than the best he had never known. Had this power originated in him? Obviously it had not. There had been no more power in him than there was in me in that minute, and this was none at all. So deep down inside each and every one of us is the same amount of power with this God. It's just about us tapping into it, right? It's just about that. I'm going to wind up stopping in a minute because I want to hear these guys. So we usually conclude this period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all throughout the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no requests for ourselves only. We may ask ourselves, however, if others will be helped. And that's the thing about that, going back even to that, just that little prayer on November 11th, right? When I'm clear of wrong motives and when I'm clear of my selfishness and self-centeredness, that's when I can give back to somebody else. And that's where my freedom comes from. And that's when God can pour in and through me and out to others. So guys, I'm going to let those guys do the break it all down. I just wanted to share that stuff with you. God bless you. And I've got more prayers in here. Thank you. Bye, dear.